and welcome to Recipe Wars. I am Judith Jones.
And I am BC Hoffman.
And today we are going to be tackling the cheesecake. That's right. So I will be doing Alton Brown's version of a cheesecake. His video is full of amazing facts. Really quite complicated, in fact. But one of the most traditional cheesecakes. It's a simple recipe, but there's a lot of steps to it. What will you be doing?
I'm actually doing Nadia G's Bitchin' Kitchen recipe. And what I love about hers is she actually does a key lime version with habanero pepper. And to me, it just sounds great because it's just a great combination of flavor, and it almost has like a key lime flavor with the consistency of a cheesecake going to it. So, and that hint of spice added in from the habanero is just gonna bring it out, I think.
Yeah, it sounds good, but let's see if the traditional wins the more complex. Okay, let's have a look at the videos.
Think about it. Aside, of course, from the crust, a basic cheesecake only contains some sugar, vanilla, eggs, and dairy. And it's a custard no matter how you cut it. In fact, the only real difference between a cheesecake and a cream pie is that most of the dairy in the cheesecake comes in the form of a soft, smooth, tangy cow's milk cheese containing no less than 33% milk fat and no more than 55% moisture, known far and wide as cream cheese.
We're gonna make key lime habanero cheesecake. We'll start with the crust. Get your hands on about 30 chocolate wafers, scaff them in a resealable bag, and mash them. You want about 2 cups worth. Put them in a bowl, and add a 1/4 cup of melted unsalted butter.
So let's get cooking, shall we?
Alrighty. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure your oven is set. So my oven actually calls for a temperature of 350 degrees, and yours, I believe, calls for 250.
300.
I'm gonna start cutting my habanero. Now, the two things that this recipe calls for is half of a habanero, and it also calls for it to be de-stemmed and de-seeded. Again, the seeds are gonna add bitterness and also spice, so you wanna get those out because you want the heat, but you don't want it to be too overpowering. And then the other thing you wanna do, I'm a big fan of taking out the gum that's in the inside of the pepper as well. And you're wondering, what's the gum? So if you look, you can actually see right here, the seeds are connected right there.
So I have basted my cake tin with melted butter, and I'm gonna add some parchment paper in there. That's how he prevents the non-sticking action to work. Now, in the video, his parchment paper action is very complicated. It's like he's doing origami, although he says it's not origami. But we have just done a simpler version. We're gonna put a round circle on the bottom of the cake tin, and then we're lining around the cake tin. Make sure you have it just above the size of the cake tin. You don't want it any shorter. We're gonna just line that around on the greased tin. And so now for the base. So he uses graham crackers, 33 to be exact. So we're gonna pop them in there. Now, one interesting thing he says when he does his is that he doesn't like to put them in the food processor. He likes to do them by hand because he wants large chunks mixed in with the smaller chunks, and it just gives a nicer base. In they go with the melted butter.
So I just minced up half of one. I was gonna mince up the other one because I like extra spice, but I'm gonna stick to recipe. I'm gonna stick to the recipe. So I've got half of it minced up, and make sure after you cut the pepper, do not rub your eyes, do not rub your face, do not go to the bathroom. Make sure you wash your hands thoroughly, get that spice off your fingers because it will transfer to whatever you touch.
All right, so that crust is mixed together, and don't forget to add your sugar too. Give it some sweetness. Okay, so into the bottom of the tin that goes.
I like your origami.
Thank you.
Right here, I've got for my crust, chocolate wafers.
So I put 2/3 of my crumb mixture in the bottom as he does. And what we want to do to make it cohesive is give it some pressure. So get a glass, a glass tumbler or one of these as I'm using.
Mason
and
jar.
just start from the middle and go out. We're just going to press that crust into the bottom of the tin.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna start smashing. So I want crumbs. There's a bunch of different ways. The cleanest technique is by all means you can use a blender, food processor, whatever. I like to keep it in a Ziploc bag because not everyone has a food processor or blender at home, and then just smash away. So let's get it on. Now make sure while you're smashing, there's not too much air in the bag because otherwise it will pop and then you'll just have chocolate confetti everywhere. So release all the air from the bag and just keep smashing away. And eventually you'll have your crumb consistency that you oh so want. So that's good. I'm gonna throw my chocolate crumbs into my bowl. Bam! And then I'm gonna throw my wonderful clarified butter right in there. And I've literally got one stick of butter and it's going right in there. And then we're just gonna mix it around. I use a spoon, be a little bit cleaner about it. So I'm literally just gonna, so I have my crumb mixture right there, and before I put anything in here, I'm going to butter my pan. Remainder of my soft butter right here. You just wanna make sure you get the butter on the sides and on the bottom of the pan.
Would you like a baster?
Why, that would work. Or you can just kinda move it around in this case as well.
Do it your way.
But I'll do the baster too, just to ensure. Just to ensure. So, get it nice and spread it all over there. And this just ensures that it's not going to stick. But we do have a springform pan, which is also nice because when you're done cooking, you can just pop it open and it comes off perfect without having to worry about it sticking so much. So it's nice and coated, and I am ready to go right in with the crumbs to make my crust. Now when you're putting the crust in, make sure that it's nice and you want about an inch thick on the bottom and a quarter of an inch up as well, an inch thick. Okay, so I just finished doing my crust and now I'm just gonna get it set up and prepared in this wonderful pan so that way as soon as I put the filling in I can just put it right in the oven. So what Nadia does is she does bain-marie and she basically just takes the aluminum foil and puts it right in the pan, and in the pan she also puts the spring form, and then she just does a nice tight seal around the spring form so that way it will just basically ensure a nice even cooking. And that's all you're looking for right there. And then I think we're both ready to start our filling.
Yep, so Alton Brown suggests to leave your cream cheese out for at least 10 minutes to let it soften up, and that will be easier to mix, so make sure you do that. Now, his recipe calls for sour cream and heavy cream. Now, this gives it an extra tanginess. It also softens the batter, and the softer the batter, the richer the cake. So, first of all, we're gonna put our sour cream into our bowl, and we're gonna mix that first alone. Now, that's gonna give a lubrication of sorts before we add in our cream cheese, and so it comes together all nicely. I see BC laughing at me, but that's what it's gonna do. So, let's mix our sour cream first.
So I just pulled out my trusty mixer from my back pocket and I'm ready to go with my filling. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna set it up. I'm just gonna throw it right in there, get it nicely locked into place.
And Alton Brown also uses a mixer in his recipe, but you can use one of these things instead as well.
So the filling is going to consist of 1 cup of sugar. Gonna throw that right in there. 5, count them, 5 egg yolks. Throw those on in there. And then I've got 1 1/4 cups of key lime juice. If you don't have key limes at home, by all means, just use regular limes. I'm gonna use some key lime zest, my half minced habanero pepper, and that's it. And I am ready to start mixing in approximately 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 after I put in 2 cups of cream cheese. And you can use whipped, which Nadia G calls for, which gives it a nice lighter, airier texture. So I also have 1 cup of mascarpone cheese, and I've got the mascarpone going right in, and I am ready to start blending.
I like the mascarpone in your cheesecake. That's nice. We are just using cream cheese. So our sour cream has been blended, and my recipe goes through a little bit of a slower process in the steps of blending the cheesecake. So into the sour cream goes our cream cheese, 20 ounces to be precise, and our sugar. All right, so I'm gonna beat this on low for about 10 to 20 seconds. Make sure it's on low so the sugar doesn't end up on the floor. That's my low. So we've blended the cream cheese and sugar into the sour cream. Now we're gonna get our eggs in together. So 3 egg yolks goes in with 2 eggs. And into that we'll add in our heavy cream and our vanilla. Now we add that in a little bit slower in 2 batches, which is a little different from your recipe. Make that all together. And by doing that, we're gonna make it a little bit lighter and fluffier because we're gonna, with our spatula, we're gonna kind of scrape down the bowl, which we should do now.
And I'm actually gonna do the same thing in mine as well.
All right, so very slowly, we're gonna add in half of this lovely liquid mixture.
And also, when you are mixing, if you don't want to make a mess, by all means, just throw a rag or towel over top, a clean one, obviously. And that way, anything that will splatter out will be just on the actual cloth as opposed to getting everywhere else.
All right, so let's get that mixed.
Okay, so my filling is almost done. So one thing she also calls for the filling is a meringue. So she's got a nice meringue. We're just gonna take our egg whites and we're gonna throw those right in there. I've got 5 egg whites I just threw in for my meringue. I've got 1 tablespoon of white vinegar, and that's just gonna ensure consistency and stability in my meringue. And then I've got my 3 tablespoons of sugar that I'm gonna throw in there as well. And you are ready to mix this meringue.
So we baked our crust in the oven for about 10 minutes. Mine was on 300 degrees Fahrenheit, yours was 350.
350.
So once they're fully cooled, we're then ready to add in our mixture.
While you're filling that in, I actually am going to finish my filling. So I have the cream cheese and mascarpone base right here with the habanero and key lime, and now I'm gonna throw in my meringues, which are amazing, and you can literally just pop that over someone's head and it won't come out. Let me try it on you.
Oh yeah, I knew that was coming.
So I'm gonna throw that right in there, and then as soon as I am done, I'm gonna fold it in, and then I'm ready to go in the filling as well. Now what I really like, because she uses the mascarpone and also the meringue, it's gonna give it like a nice, soft, airy consistency, which you wouldn't normally get with the cheesecake. Because when you think cheesecake, you think more of like a dense, heavier dessert. But this one, in fact, is gonna be lighter.
So my cheesecake is ready. I'm gonna put that in a roasting pan, and we're also gonna do a bain-marie. So we're gonna add hot water into the pan till it goes about halfway up the tin, and then that goes in the oven for an hour at 300 degrees Fahrenheit.
And a good thing to use is make sure you use already pre-warmed water for your bain-marie. Just makes it that much easier, so that way when you're cooking it, it's not cold water that you're putting into a hot pan, or for that matter, an oven that's already preheated. So I'm actually gonna throw mine in the oven as well, and it's gonna go for 350 degrees for an hour and a half.
Okay, so we've plated up our cheesecakes, and it's now the taste test time. Whose will we eat first?
Yours.
Mine.
Yours.
And just so everyone knows, that was in the oven for an hour after it baked for an hour, and then we refrigerated it for 6 hours. Let's
do
try
it.
yours.
Let's go with traditional
Okay,
first.
fine, let's do traditional.
Yeah.
Boom. Ooh.
I'm doing a little. That's good. The vanilla. Oh, this is
Sour
something.
cream.
Sour cream.
It just makes it so soft. Oh man. So the texture like really reminds me of like eating Cool Whip. But the actual flavor is just so rich.
It is.
It's definitely a heavy dessert.
It is. You only need a very small slice of this cheesecake. This is a very rich
I'll
dessert.
tell you, this is how much you need. So I had 1 bite and
That's what you need.
that's it.
It's over.
So the vanilla really stands out. The sour cream gives it its texture, and at the same time, it gives it the flavor that you have with the
Yeah.
cream cheese. Like you can taste every ingredient in there.
Yes, you can.
And then that graham cracker crumb
It works
crust.
well. It always works. You
Yeah.
can't go wrong with graham crackers. Okay.
That being said, Nadia G, let's see how habanero and key lime cheesecake compares to a sour cream
All right,
cheesecake.
let's do it. Very limey. Very nice flavor. I can really taste the lime. Just a great contrast of flavors, and I do like that chocolate wafer.
Yeah.
Works really well.
So I like the texture of yours, but I like the flavor of mine better. I mean, I actually, and again, I minced up the habanero, so it is in there. I think I actually got a little piece of it because I tasted it, and it was subtle, but the spice was there. And the key lime goes really well with the spice and the chocolate.
It really is a great combination, I have to say. I like that. But this taste, you can just taste every single ingredient in there. It's traditional, it's great texture. I don't know, it's a tough one, BC.
Dilemmas.
Who will win?
So if you're going for a traditional cheesecake, hands down, I would have to say yours. But if you're going for a flavorful, just unique, less authentic variation of cheesecake, I would totally say for the flavor benefit of this one, I mean, just the habanero, the key lime, the chocolate, I mean, even the meringue just gives it a completely different feel. I would have to say Nadia G's Bitchin' Kitchen.
And I would have to say Alton Brown's traditional cheesecake. There we go. So we are calling it a tie then between Alton Brown's and Nadia G's Bitchin' Kitchen key lime habanero cheesecake. They both serve different purposes. It's the classic, it's the more creative. Take
More
your
flavor,
pick.
more flair.
Thank you for joining us today on Recipe Wars. I am Judith Jones.
I'm BC Hoffman.
And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and catch us next time on Recipe Wars. That's right.